Oh, hello. Welcome back to Speakeasy. I am still Paul F. Tompkins, and you'll recognize my guest from his many, many characters, impressions, sketch work on the television program Saturday Night Live. Please say hello to Bill Hader. Bill, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to see you. Welcome back to Los Angeles.
Thank you.
You lived here before.
Yes, I did.
SNL.
Yeah.
For how long?
I moved here in 1999, and then I got SNL in 2005. And I was a PA and an assistant editor during that time. I wasn't doing any comedy or anything, really.
Yeah, because you're from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Did you start doing comedy there anywhere?
No.
There was no scene to speak of.
No, there was no scene to speak of. But my dad actually tried to do stand-up. My dad, like when I was really young, I have never seen any tape. I've never seen anything. He's very funny, so I'm sure it's great. I did stand up for in the early 80s when it was really hot. Everyone was big, like big,
brick wall,
pushed
up sleeves.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I think he might have done a show in Houston at a place where like Bill Hicks and Sam Kinison, like that whole scene was at like once.
Right.
So comedy was very much in the house.
As a kid, you voraciously consumed it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially Monty Python was huge. Early Woody Allen movies, early Mel Brooks movies, those Bill Cosby albums. There was a thing, if you liked Monty Python, you liked that stuff, and then you go to school, you kind of had something on everybody. Because other people thought, well, this is comedy, and it was kind of just, like a, I don't know, I don't want to bag on anything, but just a TV show,
yes.
You know what I mean? Just like, I don't know. And I was like, no, I know what real comedy is, yeah.
Right.
So.
And it was also a sort of a shorthand to get to know people who were also into that stuff.
Yeah,
It was
totally.
like, oh, we are like-minded.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you met somebody who also could quote Monty Python now, I mean, it's like really nerdy, but to me, it was the same thing as if you saw someone with a Rush T-shirt or something, And I was like, oh, you and I, you know what I mean? That idea of bringing someone home and bringing someone to your house and you watch, a Python sketch or listen to a record or whatever and watching their reaction to it.
Right.
And having that, sometimes they were into it and sometimes you're like, oh.
Because they might as well be looking at a picture of your soul.
Yeah, exactly. Here's my soul. What do you think? You like it? You know what I mean? And it's like, and if it doesn't go well, then it's bad news.
So you came out here to do comedy, to get into the business.
Well, I didn't actually come out here to do comedy. I came out here to be a filmmaker. I was more interested in movies and directing and writing.
So you got into the production side of things because you thought that was the path that you were headed down.
Yeah. I was like, learn while you earn kind of thing.
But at that time, were you still harboring ideas of one day performing? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, I had done stuff in high school a little bit, and I was always the guy, I was like, I'll shoot your short film, and they were like, you should be in it. And I was like, yeah, but I could shoot it, and I can make it look cool. And they're like, nah, why don't you be in it? What ended up happening was I went to the Second City show, and I saw Derek Waters and Simon Helberg and all those guys do a show there. I mean, I was like, wow, people my age are performing comedy. I love sketch comedy. I was a huge fan of Kids in the Hall, Mr. Show, all these other things, and so I was going, well, why don't maybe I should take, and I started taking classes in 2003.
Was it terrifying, or was it?
It was hard, yeah. I did not enjoy it at first, but I felt like I moved out here. This happens a lot. You move out to do something creative, and then you get caught in this kind of thing of like, well, I gotta make money. I have to make money. I have to pay my rent.
Yep.
So now I'm doing these things that I never came out here to do, and then you get caught up in it. You get caught up in that lifestyle, and then I was like, well, I gotta do something creative, just something. So I was working as an assistant editor, but every Saturday I went in and I took these classes, and I got to go up in front of people and like kind of fail and kind of learn how to like fail less and less, or like how to not fail less and less, but deal with failure maybe. But
right.
And I started a sketch group with Mel Cowan, Eric Filipkowski, and Matt Offerman, Nick Offerman's little brother. And then I got crazy lucky because Nick Offerman's married to Megan Mullally. She came to a show, saw me, and recommended me to Lauren Michaels. So it happened. I went from like kindergarten to like Harvard.
There's got to be so much about that is, of course, exhilarating, but then it's got to be such a head trip. Like,
yeah.
I'm sure there were moments where you're like, am I ready to do this?
Oh, I did not feel confident at SNL probably until going into my 5th season.
Wow.
My first 4 years, I was a complete nervous wreck.
Right.
Friday nights before shows, I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was just like having panic attacks, everything, because I showed up, you know, with Amy Poehler, Tina Fey. You know, it's Second City in LA, all those people are on the wall, you know what I mean? And now I'm sitting down with them and they're like, okay, so let's figure this thing out. And I'm going, I'm not ready, you know.
Whatever you want to do is fine.
Yeah, whatever you said, just put me wherever. Whatever. I don't give a shit. And I came in with Andy Samberg, who kind of had his thing, you know, with The Lonely Island. Kristen, who was Groundlings, and Sudeikis, who was Second City Chicago. And so I was just like, shut up and learn from people. And I had a funny instance where Kristen actually showed up 5 shows after me and Andy. And it was her first writing night, and I thought, well, I've been here for 5 shows. I'll help this new girl out, you know? So I helped her with the sketch, and I was like, you know, I think you maybe want to try this. And then she's like, oh, okay, really, all right, you know? And then her first table read, the first thing she did was Target Lady, and I was like, oh, loser. She's a genius. I don't know. I was immediately like, oh, God, I'm such a douchebag.
But isn't it nice to know that you're not a delusional maniac who would think, it seems like my advice has paid off?
No, there's no way. I was like, oh, you're Kristen Wiig. I didn't realize you were Kristen Wiig. I'm sorry. I thought, I apologize. But
I'm curious because those early days, you know, when you're taking the classes at Second City, it would be very easy to just get discouraged right away. You're learning improvisation, which is you have to really put yourself out there, and you can die a horrible death, and it can be mortifying, you know? As a person who wasn't even imagining a performing path, what was it about that kept you going?
Oh, I think just being creative every week, and I got something out of it. And to be honest, I surprised myself that I was kind of good at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was that the instructors there would say, hey, you're good at this, you know, and you had to audition to get into your level 4 and level 5, and that audition, I remember getting laughs and thinking like, oh, well, this is going pretty good, you know? But I don't want you to think that I was taking it all for granted. It was more of like I was very fearful. I was just like,
well, that's the thing.
I was totally afraid of like the sketch group I was in. We would do shows in a backyard in Van Nuys, and even that, which was all of our friends, and we were in a backyard in Van Nuys, I was in the bathroom like, boom, boom, Bill, come on, man, you all right? And I was just like, all right, come on, man, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna have fun out there. And I'm like, I don't know, you know. And I remember I had to wear a tie in the first sketch, and I was just like, I thought it was choking me, and I mean, it was terrible. In my first SNL episode, I thought I was gonna pass out. I really did. I remember I did that Al Pacino thing, and I walked off, and I had to go sit down. The band would go sit me down, and I was just like, like shaking, and I was like, I can't. So my thing, I remember, and what calmed me down finally at an after party in my 4th season, Laura Michaels came over to me and said, you know, you can stay here as long as you want. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, have fun. Like, relax.
Right.
You please have fun.
Right.
Because when I see you have like a little fun, it's it's great. So just go out there and have fun. Who cares?
Right.
You're gonna bomb, everybody bombs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Before that was just, I made everyone around me nervous. They do an impression of me as this. I do that. Like I'll be like, every game show host I played, I'd be back there just going like this. And then I go, oh, and then Chris Kelly, who's our stage manager, would put his hand on my back and go, all right, you're gonna be fine. And I'm like, okay. And so if you watch, I always run out as a game show host because I start running in place because I'm nervous, and then I like jog out. So if you watch that, the stage manager just kind of pushed me out. So you watch it, every game show host I play, I always jog out like, hello, like whatever.
Yeah, and you have played a lot of game show hosts.
Yeah, I know. It's ironic that everything that scared me on this show, which was straight to camera stuff, terrified me. And anything where I had to drive the sketch, meaning you're the host of something, which means you're facilitating everyone else, but you're the through line that's keeping the tempo up, letting how long is that like get a laugh, okay, let that now come in, and you keep it moving. I was terrified of doing those things, and those were the two things that I was constantly being thrown into. I was always like, you're the game show host, so we wrote this thing for you to do on Update, and I'm like, but then at other times I would go out there, just get a little less, and then by my last show, I wasn't nervous at all. really.
Finally.
The last show was when I was like, oh, that was fun.
You have been nominated for an Emmy twice. You're the first cast member, male cast member?
That's what I'm being told, yes.
No, who tells you this?
Hollywood. I'm like, hello? And it's like, listen, you did it twice.
What is that like for you? What was it like the first time? What was it like the second time?
Oh, the first time came as a complete surprise. Because they come to you every year and they say, hey, what show do you want to submit to the Emmys? And I never took it that seriously because I was like, we can't get nominated for it. You know what I mean? I was like, I can't get nominated for an Emmy. And then I got a bunch of text messages going like, congratulations, oh my God. I was like, about what? And then it was a really fun day because you could tell even my friends and other people were like surprised. They were like, whoa, that's so cool. You know what I mean? Like, how did that happen?
To the point where it was a little insulting?
Yeah, all backhanded comments. They're like, wow, well, gosh, maybe, I guess so-and-so isn't, that show didn't have a season this year. So, yeah. And then the second time around, it was the same thing where I kind of didn't even think about it. And then my publicist woke me up at 5:45 in the morning and said, hey, so you got nominated for an Emmy. You're going to do press in like 30 minutes. And I was like, huh? And I was at the ESPYs the night before with John Hamm.
Listen, I've been broing out for hours.
Hey, look, I'm all broed out. Can I speak to a lady? Yeah, but it was insanely flattering and legitimately surprising both times. I know people say that, but it's not like you go into your season going like, it's gonna be the Emmy.
Right. You wouldn't really be thinking about it until someone from the show would come to you.
Yeah, come to you and say, hey, which is your Emmy show? And then I always, the one I picked this year was the one that I just remember we did it and Lauren was saying, you had a really good show, and I just remember when he says that. So you go, oh, that one. But I didn't remember what was in it. I just remember, when the Seth MacFarlane season opener, remember Lauren said I had a good show. And then looking back on after I got the nomination, Stefan's not in that episode, which we found interesting. I did Clint Eastwood in that episode with the chair, going on the road with the chair. And then I did this puppet sketch where I was this guy who was in Grenada in a puppet class that people seem to enjoy.
Yes.
But I think Stefan's the reason why it's the most popular thing. I mean, it's the thing most people come up to me about.
Right.
Until I get to LA, and then it's a cross between Stefan and the Californians. People in LA love the Californians.
That is true.
In New York, they're like, I don't get, like, I've had people say to me, like in a bodega or something, like, hey man, SNL, they always call me SNL. They always go, SNL, man, you're great, SNL. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And they go, but stop doing that Californian thing. No one gets it. No one understands what you talk. I don't get the joke. You guys are just laughing. You and Armiston are just making each other laugh. And then I get here and people are like, oh my God. They really like that one. Which is a bit that me and Fred would do at the read-through table. So Wednesday is the table read, and the whole cast is around this big table with the host. It starts when Lauren shows up. And sometimes we're waiting, he's in a call or whatever, and we're waiting for him for a while. So everyone just is kind of sitting there, and me and Fred would do this bit where he'd be like, hey man, how you getting home? And I was like, well, I think I'm gonna take Sunset, and then I'm gonna take left on La Cienega, and I take all the way south to Pico, hook a right, and I take that. I mean, you could also take Venice if you want. It's like but it was never giving directions. It was just explaining how you were gonna get home.
Right. Which is, for people who don't know, for people outside of Los Angeles, it is a topic of conversation all the time.
When I got here, my publicist was like, how did you get here? Did you take the 10 or, or like, you know what I mean?
And it's like you almost like you have trivia about directions, and
like,
how to get places.
Get around? And then I can't take credit for it, but Fred Armisen and James Anderson, one of the writers, they decided to make it a soap opera, which I thought was so funny. And then this whole time we were doing it, Fred would go, hey guys, what are you doing here? He's kind of doing this voice. And then on air, he went, what are you doing? And Kristen and I just lost it.
Was it the absurdity of the voice, the escalation of absurdity of the voice that would get everybody every time?
Yeah, because you would just change your inflection every time you said anything. So like Kristen, I got her, I felt very happy when she hosted. She was posing as a guy. She had like a mustache on. And I go over to her and I was like, hey, Brad. But on air, I went, Brad, like that. And she started laughing. So it was all these like mines everywhere where like, Fred always could make me laugh. And he always kind of was gunning for me. And if we were in a sketch, he was always like...
Because it feels like a triumph. If you can break someone, it feels like a triumph.
Yeah, and he wrote a hilarious sketch called Memory Loss Theater, where I'm a doctor saying, this is a theater group, all people who have severe memory loss. None of these people, I've worked with them, they remember all their lines. And immediately everyone forgets their lines, and I'm having to like say that under my breath, like, hello, honey, how are you? Hello, honey, how are you? You know? So in my head, I was like, this is great, because Fred has to repeat whatever I say. I'm gonna like throw him under the bus a little bit.
Sure.
He's supposed to walk in and go, hey everybody, and like forget his next line. But instead he walked in and he was wearing this big puffy New York Giants jacket. and then was like, where do I put this? Where do I put it? And I was like, just give it to me. And then I was like, oh, Fred, like he totally threw me off. And then he said something, he goes, does that mean the play's over? And I was like, no, the play's not over. Like he totally got me.
It's a preemptive strike.
Preemptive strike totally got me. And I just was like, I was so mad that he just knew I was gonna try to do something.
You've got a bunch of films that are in the works, some stuff that's coming out, but you're also going to be doing some writing on South Park.
Yeah.
Which you've done before, right? Yeah. I always find it curious because I hate writing, and so anyone who willfully goes and does that when they could do something else, it surprises me. But is that part of the process that you really enjoy?
I do enjoy it. I was not that good, I felt, at writing comedy bits. I could never do it by myself. I couldn't do it like Fred or Kristen or Tina and any of those people where they could just by themselves write this really funny sketch. I always needed someone there. But the South Park thing, I did it for two reasons. One, I love this, it's like one of my favorite shows. And I love those guys, Matt and Trey. And the other reason, which is the main reason, is every time I do it, I learn something about story, about storytelling, about breaking story. Matt, how it always starts is, this thing of Matt saying, no, this is the point I want to make. Like, this is crazy, You could kind of go off on another tangent and Matt would go, no, but this is what we're saying, And so I was like, I have a very clear viewpoint, like the theme of this is what it is.
So that everything is in service of
this idea. Yeah. And then Trey is so smart in the way that if something's funny and it makes us laugh, it's like, let's just try to hold on to that. He's all the inspiration of like, oh, this is making us laugh. Well, I know it doesn't make sense right now, but we can make this work because we're laughing about this. Right. It's almost like recreating that feeling to be in the lunchroom with your friends. I always think like the funniest I've ever been in my life was in the lunchroom in high school. I've never been that funny since. Everyone, as the hardest I laughed, and everyone was killing because there was no stakes. Right. It wasn't going on television. There was no anything. It was just you and your friends, and you were making each other laugh really hard. And I don't sit and write it. I mean, it's Trey. They do all the work. That documentary, 6 Days There, is not totally off. I just kind of sit there going like this. That's kind of all I do, and then I'll go, yeah, that's good. The first episode I worked on was the one with Kanye West, where he was a gay fish. And that was one I felt very happy with. He has that song where he's like, fuck SNL and the entire cast, and I want to strangle a South Park writer with a fish dick. So he tells me to fuck off twice in that song. Right. And I love Kanye West. I listen to that song. So I always get a little like, yeah, he's talking to him. You're welcome. Like, you listen to that song, you're like, oh, all right.
Cool to be mentioned in a song.
Cool to be mentioned twice.
Right.
I mean, he wants to kill me, but that's all right.
Saturday Night Live is a famously competitive atmosphere. Are you a competitive person?
No. So I think I get competitive with like myself a little bit, where I get harder on myself than with other people or something. I mean, you do have moments where you're kind of like, oh man. I remember when Lazy Sunday happened. It was like, wow, that would have been awesome to be involved with that. You know what I mean? You have moments like that, but it's never like anger or you know what I mean? It's like it's more of like, that was really good. Man, I gotta start working harder. You know what I mean? It's more that feeling. But it's made to be competitive. Like the DNA of the place is competitive.
And always has been, right?
Yeah. We had a Justin Timberlake show this past season, and they did that 5 Timers Club where like everybody came back. And that was a thing a lot of those guys were saying. It was like, everyone's so nice to each other, you know?
Like almost like why?
Yeah, it's like, oh, everyone's like so happy for each other. Like it's so like
that could be a thing here.
Yeah, but there was like, oh, it was very much like a compliment.
Right.
Like, if we're all killing it, then the show's good, and then we're good. I mean, it's what they teach you at Second City. You know, is like, you know, your whole job is making the other person look good. You know, like the guy I always liked was Phil Hartman, because Phil Hartman was that way where, you know, it didn't matter what sketch he was in, whether he was Caveman Lawyer or he was like the dad in those Matt Foley sketches, the bandana, you know, he was so committed to like whatever he was doing. And by him just being committed to what he was doing, it just made it all funny. It made everything work.
Servicing the material.
Yeah, you have to, you know.
What will you miss the most?
I really will miss Thursday and Friday rehearsals, because that was the best. Because you knew what you were in. You know, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday especially, you have like audition anxiety where you're doing this thing and you're hoping you're going to create this thing and put it up on Wednesday and see if everyone likes it. But Thursday and Friday, it's like you know what you're in. I can concentrate on that stuff. And then it was really just hanging out with the cast and hanging out with all these people that you really like and are really funny and seeing what they're doing. I always liked it when new people came in, because you could kind of, someone would do something that would surprise you and you would go, wow, that's so cool that you can do that, and then that would then influence you in a way. And so I on Thursday and Friday, I always love those days just to see, and also with the hosts, get to hang out with Steve Martin and watch his process. It's really freaking cool.
Right.
And then, even though I was terrified, being on a live show and doing something that would get a giant laugh and feeling like the anxiety, everything going into it, and it working, there's no feeling like that. It's worth all the pain.
Will you watch the show?
Oh yeah. I think Jason and Fred and I were talking about having some sort of like, if we're all in LA, having some sort of like a party, a funeral. Having a funeral party. Watching it. Awake.
Yeah.
Thank you. Funeral. I call them funeral parties.
Sure.
In Oklahoma, we call them funeral parties. Well, I'm gonna be at your mom's funeral party.
Please stop calling it that.
It's awake. It's gonna be a party for the dead person.
Well, Bill, here's to many happy funeral parties for you in the future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh, and Bill's movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 will be in theaters. The second one, it will be in theaters September 27th. Bill Hader, thank you so much for joining us. That is it for this edition. Don't look into my camera. That's it for this edition of Speakeasy. Please join us next time when my guest will be a different person. I did say please.
Oh, sorry.
And then you continued to. You're still.
How
I don't
does
know if you're
Hollywood
aware.
work?
You're still doing it.
How does this work?
Oh, you're gonna find out. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and check back every Monday to see who I interview next. And for more info about Speakeasy, visit mademan.com.